What if I told you that the exercise doctors have been recommending for decades to protect your heart might not actually be the best option for you? For years, maybe your whole life you've heard it. Walk more. Get your steps in. 30 minutes of walking a day keeps the cardiologist away. And look, walking is wonderful. I'm not here to tell you to stop walking. But here's what most doctors won't tell you, because frankly, most of them don't even know about it yet. A landmark study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine analyzed data from 270 clinical trials involving nearly 16,000 people. And what they found shocked the medical community. They discovered that there's one specific type of exercise that lowers blood pressure almost twice as effectively as traditional cardio like walking, jogging, or cycling. Twice as effective. Let that sink in for a moment. And here's the part that really got my attention. This exercise can be done in about 5 minutes. You don't need a gym, you don't need special equipment, you don't need to leave your living room. And if you're over 70, this might be the single most important change you make to your exercise routine this year. I'm Dr. Evelyn Moore. I've spent 32 years in cardiovascular medicine, and I have to admit, when I first came across this research, I was skeptical. We were all taught in medical school that aerobic exercise was the gold standard for heart health. But science evolves, and when the evidence is this strong, we have to pay attention. Now, I'm going to show you exactly what this exercise is, how to do it safely, and why it works so remarkably well for people in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s. But before I do that, there's something critical you need to understand first. Because if you don't understand why this works, you might do it incorrectly. Or worse, you might not believe me and miss out on something that could genuinely add years to your life. And to help you understand, I need to tell you about Margaret. Margaret came into my office 3 years ago at the age of 74. She was a retired school teacher, the kind of woman who always had a crossword puzzle in her purse and could name every student she'd ever taught, sharp as a tack. But her blood pressure was a different story. When I looked at her chart, I saw a number that made my stomach tighten, 168/95. That's dangerously high. Stage 2, hypertension. At her age, with those numbers, she was at serious risk for stroke, heart attack, and kidney damage. Margaret sat across from me, wringing her hands. I could see she was worried, but she was also frustrated. "Dr. Moore," she said, "I don't understand. I walk every single day, rain or shine. I've done it for 20 years. I eat my vegetables. I don't smoke. I barely drink. What am I doing wrong?" And the truth was, she wasn't doing anything wrong. She was doing everything we'd been telling patients to do for generations. The problem wasn't Margaret. The problem was that the advice wasn't complete. I looked at her and said, "Margaret, I want to try something different with you. Something that the research is just starting to catch up on." She raised an eyebrow. "What kind of something?" "It's called isometric exercise, specifically a wall sit." She laughed, actually laughed. "A wall sit? Like what my granddaughter does before her soccer games?" "Exactly like that, but modified for you, gentler, safer, and based on what the latest science is showing us, potentially more powerful for lowering your blood pressure than all those walks combined." Margaret was skeptical, which was fair. She'd been walking religiously for 2 decades. Why would sitting against a wall for a few minutes make any difference? But she trusted me. So we started her on a simple protocol. Nothing extreme, just a few minutes, 3 times a week. 4 months later, Margaret came back for her follow-up appointment. I took her blood pressure myself because I wanted to see this with my own eyes. The cuff inflated, deflated, and then I saw the numbers. 132/84. Margaret's jaw dropped. "That can't be right." I took it again. 130/82. "Margaret," I said, "that's a 36-point drop in your systolic pressure. That's better than what most blood pressure medications achieve." She started crying right there in my office. Not sad tears, relief tears. 20 years of walking hadn't gotten her blood pressure under control. 4 months of wall sits, just a few minutes a few times a week, had changed everything. Now, Margaret's story isn't unique. I've seen this over and over again in my practice. But before I explain exactly how to do this and what the science says, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been frustrated that despite doing everything right, your blood pressure just wouldn't come down? Or have you been told you need medication but you're looking for natural alternatives? Drop a comment below and tell me about your experience. I read every single comment, and your story might help someone else watching this video today. Now, let me explain exactly why this works. Because once you understand the mechanism, you'll see why this isn't just another health fad. This is basic human physiology that we've somehow overlooked for decades. Your blood vessels are not just passive tubes. Think of them more like garden hoses with muscles wrapped around them. These muscles can squeeze tighter or relax wider, which is what controls your blood pressure. When those muscles are chronically tight, you get high blood pressure. When they learn to relax, your blood pressure comes down. Now, here's where isometric exercise comes in. When you do a wall sit, you're contracting your muscles while keeping them still. You're not bouncing up and down. You're holding steady. And while you're holding that position, something fascinating happens inside your body. The sustained muscle contraction temporarily restricts blood flow to those muscles. Not in a dangerous way, but enough that your blood vessels have to adapt. Think of it like pinching a garden hose slightly. The pressure builds up behind the pinch. But here's the magic. When you release the contraction, when you stand up from that wall sit, there's a sudden rush of blood flow, a surge. And that surge triggers your blood vessel walls to produce something called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is like a signal that tells your blood vessels to relax, to widen, to let blood flow more freely. And here's the key. The more regularly you trigger this surge, the more nitric oxide your body produces, and the better your blood vessels get at relaxing. It's like training your blood vessels to be more flexible, more responsive, more healthy. Walking doesn't do this in the same way. Don't get me wrong, walking is fantastic for overall cardiovascular fitness, for your muscles, for your mental health. But the specific trigger for nitric oxide release that comes from isometric contraction followed by release, walking doesn't provide that to nearly the same degree. Let me give you another analogy. Imagine you have a rubber band that's been stretched tight for years. If you want to make that rubber band more elastic again, you don't just leave it stretched. You need to work it, contract it, release it, contract it, release it. Each cycle helps restore its natural flexibility. That's what wall sits do for your blood vessels. Each session is like a workout for the muscles around your arteries. And over time, those arteries become more responsive, more relaxed at rest, and your blood pressure comes down. Now, there's a second mechanism at play here, and it's just as important: your heart. When you hold an isometric contraction, your heart has to work a little harder to pump blood against that temporary resistance. Not dramatically harder, not dangerously harder, but enough to provide a gentle challenge. And just like any muscle, when your heart faces a challenge repeatedly in a controlled way, it gets stronger. A stronger heart pumps more efficiently. It doesn't have to beat as many times per minute to get the same job done. And a heart that beats more efficiently creates less pressure on your blood vessel walls with each beat, so you're getting a double benefit. Your blood vessels are becoming more flexible, and your heart is becoming more efficient. It's like upgrading both the pump and the pipes at the same time. The third mechanism involves your nervous system. Many people with high blood pressure have an overactive sympathetic nervous system. That's your fight or flight system. It's constantly sending signals that keep your blood vessels clamped down, ready for action, even when you're just sitting on the couch watching television. Isometric exercise has been shown to help recalibrate this system. The controlled stress of holding a position, combined with focused breathing, teaches your nervous system to come back to baseline more efficiently. It's like hitting a reset button on your stress response. Now, I promised I would tell you exactly what the research found, and it's time to deliver on that promise. The study I mentioned earlier, published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine in 2023, was led by Dr. Jamie O'Driscoll from the University of Leicester. His team analyzed 270 randomized controlled trials spanning from 1990 to 2023. That's over 3 decades of research involving nearly 16,000 participants. They compared 5 different types of exercise: aerobic exercise like walking and cycling, high-intensity interval training, dynamic resistance training like weightlifting, combined training, and isometric exercise like wall sits and hand grip exercises. And here's what they found. Isometric exercise produced the greatest reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure, greater than aerobic exercise, greater than HIIT, greater than weight training. The numbers were remarkable. Wall sits specifically showed an average reduction of 11.4 millimeters of mercury in systolic pressure and 5.09 millimeters in diastolic pressure. To put that in perspective, many blood pressure medications only achieve reductions of about 8 to 10 millimeters. We're talking about an exercise that can match or exceed what pharmaceutical drugs accomplish without any side effects, without any cost, without any prescription. And here's what really caught my attention. Of all the isometric exercises studied, the wall sit was the most effective. More effective than hand grip exercises, more effective than leg extensions. Something about the combination of engaging your large leg muscles while maintaining a stable position creates the optimal conditions for these cardiovascular benefits. Now, you might be wondering, is this safe for people over 70? Isn't holding a static position with elevated heart rate risky? This is an important question, and I'm glad you're thinking about safety. The research specifically looked at older adults and found that when done correctly, with proper modifications, isometric exercise is remarkably safe. In fact, it may be safer than some forms of dynamic exercise because there's no impact, no rapid movements, no risk of tripping or falling while your body is in motion. The key is starting gradually and building up over time, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you in the protocol section. But first, let me share a few more stories that illustrate just how transformative this can be. Remember I told you about Margaret? Well, Margaret wasn't my only success story. Let me tell you about Harold. Harold was 79 when I first met him. He'd already had one mild heart attack 5 years earlier, and his blood pressure was stubbornly high despite being on 2 different medications. He was tired, discouraged, felt like his body was betraying him. "Doc," he said during our first appointment, "I can barely walk to the mailbox without getting winded. You want me to exercise more?" I explained that the wall sit wasn't about getting winded. It wasn't about walking farther or moving faster. It was about holding still, something his body could handle even on his worst days. We started him at just 10 seconds. That's it, 10 seconds of a very gentle, very shallow wall sit, more like leaning against the wall with slightly bent knees than a true squat. 12 weeks later, Harold was holding wall sits for 90 seconds. His blood pressure had dropped from 154/92 to 136/80. He was walking to the mailbox without pausing to catch his breath. And his cardiologist was talking about potentially reducing his medication. "I thought my heart was a ticking time bomb," Harold told me at his follow-up. "Now I feel like I've got some control back." Then there's Ruth. Ruth was 83 and lived alone in a small apartment. She was terrified of falling, which meant she rarely exercised at all. Walking felt dangerous. The idea of going to a gym was overwhelming. When I suggested wall sits, her first concern was balance. "What if I fall while doing it?" That's when I showed her the modified version. Sitting in a sturdy chair with her back against the wall, pressing her shoulder blades into the wall while slightly lifting her hips off the seat. Same muscle engagement, same blood vessel response, same benefits, but completely safe, completely supported. Ruth did her chair-supported wall sits religiously for 6 months. Her blood pressure improved, yes, but something else happened too. Her legs got stronger. Her confidence grew. She started standing up from chairs more easily, started feeling stable on her feet again. At her last appointment, Ruth told me something that brought tears to my eyes. "I went for a walk around the block yesterday," she said, "first time in 3 years. That's what this exercise can do. Not just lower numbers on a chart, change lives, restore independence, give people back the confidence they thought they'd lost forever." And then there's George. George was my most skeptical patient. 76 years old, a retired engineer, the kind of man who wanted to see the data before he believed anything. He questioned everything I told him, made me cite my sources. "Show me the studies," he demanded when I suggested wall sits. So I did. I pulled up the British Journal of Sports Medicine article, walked him through the methodology, explained the statistical analysis. George read every word. "All right," he finally said. "I'll try it for 3 months. If my blood pressure doesn't improve by at least 10 points, I'm going back to just my walks." 10 weeks later, George's systolic pressure had dropped 14 points. 14. He called me on the phone just to admit he was wrong. "I didn't think something this simple could work," he said. "I was looking for complexity. Sometimes the answer is just simple." George became one of my biggest advocates. He started telling everyone at his senior center about wall sits. Last I heard, he'd started an informal wall sit club where a group of seniors meet 3 times a week to do their exercises together. Now let me ask you something. Which of these stories resonates with you most? Are you like Margaret, doing everything right but not seeing results? Are you like Harold, feeling like exercise is too hard for your current condition? Are you like Ruth, worried about safety? Or are you like George, wanting to see the evidence before you commit? Leave a comment below telling me which situation fits you best. I want to know who's watching this video so I can make more content that helps you specifically. All right, you've been patient, you understand the science, you've heard the stories. Now let me give you the exact protocol I use with my patients. First, a critical disclaimer. Before starting any new exercise program, please talk to your doctor. This is especially important if you have existing heart conditions, severe hypertension, knee problems, or any other health concerns. What I'm sharing here is general guidance, not a substitute for personalized medical advice. Now, let's get into the specifics. Step 1. Find your wall. You want a flat, sturdy wall with no decorations or shelves that might get in the way. Make sure the floor isn't slippery. If you're worried about stability, position a sturdy chair to one side that you can grab if needed. Step 2. Get into position. Stand with your back against the wall. Walk your feet out about 12 to 18 inches from the wall. Your feet should be about hip width apart, toes pointing forward. Step 3. Slide down slowly. This is the key. Slide your back down the wall while keeping your entire back in contact with the wall. Only go as far as you feel comfortable. You do not need to get to a 90-degree angle. For beginners, bending your knees to just 30 or 45 degrees is perfectly effective. The research shows that blood pressure benefits occur at any angle, not just deep squats. Step 4. Hold the position. Here's your starting target. Hold for just 20 seconds. That's it. 20 seconds. If that feels too hard, hold for 10 seconds. If it feels easy, you can work up from there. Step 5. Remember to breathe. This is absolutely critical. Do not hold your breath. Holding your breath during isometric exercise can cause a dangerous spike in blood pressure. Breathe slowly and steadily throughout the entire hold. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Keep breathing. Step 6. Come out of it safely. When your time is up, push through your heels and slide your back up the wall to standing. Or, if you need to, simply step forward and away from the wall. Don't rush this part. Step 7. Rest for 2 minutes. This rest period is essential. Your blood vessels need time to experience that surge of blood flow and nitric oxide release that I talked about earlier. Step 8. Repeat. In the beginning, aim for 2 to 3 repetitions. Over time, you'll work up to 4 repetitions per session. Now here's the weekly schedule based on the research. Do this 3 times per week with at least 1 day of rest between sessions. So you might do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, whatever fits your routine. As you get stronger, gradually increase your hold time. After a few weeks at 20 seconds, try 30 seconds, then 45, then 60. The research protocol that showed optimal results used 2-minute holds, but that's an advanced level. Take your time getting there. Here's a progression guide. During weeks 1 and 2, hold for 20 seconds and do 2 repetitions. During weeks 3 and 4, hold for 30 seconds and do 3 repetitions. During weeks 5 and 6, hold for 45 seconds and do 3 repetitions. During weeks 7 and 8, Hold for 60 seconds and do 4 repetitions. After week 8, continue gradually increasing hold time toward 2 minutes if comfortable. Now, some modifications for specific situations. If you have knee problems, don't go as deep. A very shallow bend, almost just leaning against the wall with slightly bent knees, still provides benefits while protecting your joints. If you have balance concerns, do the chair-supported version I described with Ruth. Sit in a sturdy chair with your back against the wall and practice pressing your shoulders into the wall while engaging your leg muscles. You can even slightly lift your bottom off the chair if that feels stable. If you're on blood pressure medication, don't change your medication based on exercise improvements without talking to your doctor first. The goal is to work with your medical team, not replace them. Here are the warning signs to stop immediately: chest pain or tightness, severe shortness of breath, dizziness or lightheadedness, unusual heart palpitations, pain in your knees or back. If any of these occur, stop the exercise and consult your healthcare provider. And here's one more tip that I give all my patients: track your progress. Get a simple home blood pressure monitor if you don't have one already. Take your blood pressure at the same time each day, ideally in the morning before you've had coffee. Write down the numbers. After 4 to 6 weeks of consistent wall sits, compare your averages. Most of my patients see noticeable improvements within this time frame. Now, before I wrap up, I want to bring this full circle. We started this video talking about how the standard advice, the advice to just walk more, might not be the complete picture. And I hope you can see now why that's true. Walking is wonderful. Please don't stop walking. But if you're over 70 and you're looking for the most efficient, most evidence-based way to strengthen your heart and lower your blood pressure, adding wall sits to your routine could be transformative. It was transformative for Margaret, who finally got her blood pressure under control after 20 years of frustration. It was transformative for Harold, who went from barely walking to the mailbox to feeling like he had control of his health again. It was transformative for Ruth, who overcame her fear of exercise and walked around the block for the first time in 3 years. And it was transformative for George, the skeptic who became a believer and now leads a wall sit club at his senior center. It could be transformative for you too. Let me summarize the key points. 1. Isometric exercises like wall sits lower blood pressure almost twice as effectively as traditional cardio, according to a major 2023 study. 2. The mechanism involves nitric oxide release, heart strengthening, and nervous system recalibration. 3. Wall sits can be done safely by people in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s with appropriate modifications. 4. The protocol is simple. Start with 20-second holds, work up gradually, do 3 sessions per week. 5. Always consult your doctor before starting, and never hold your breath during the exercise. I have one final request. If this video has been helpful to you, please hit that like button. It helps this video reach more people who might be struggling with their heart health and don't know about this option. If you want to see more content like this, exercises that are backed by research and designed specifically for people over 70, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss my next video. And if you have a friend or family member who's been struggling with blood pressure, who's frustrated that their walks aren't enough, please share this video with them. You might just change their life. In my next video, I'm going to show you 3 more isometric exercises you can add to your routine to create a complete heart-strengthening program. Each one takes just a few minutes and can be done without any equipment. Until then, take care of your heart. It's the only one you've got. And remember, it's never too late to make changes that matter. This is Dr. Evelyn Moore. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.